Okay, friends, it's almost 1 p.m., so I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Because I'm in Central Standard Time Zone, so I figured I'm a little bit ahead of you anyway. What's one extra minute? Anyway, I just thought first of all, congratulate you guys on another good weekend, preview weekend. Despite the weather, actually it worked out pretty well, given when the snow started to hit BC versus our guests on campus. It was another good weekend. I got a lot of positive feedback from several families. And I think I don't know, maybe it's just me, but it feels like the preview weekends are getting smoother in terms of their setup and teardown and just the time that we have with families. There are some things that uh, um, I am taking note of. I would like to see some of our presentations that are done by other parties, not ourselves, just to be a little bit more in line with the brand, the UG brand that we're putting forward. I think that needs to be better for sure. But that's a side conversation that myself and Brian are having with those departments. But overall, it's a really good event for us. And now that I've been meeting with some families, and I actually had one of the families, well, four of the families, but one of the fall 19 were on campus. It's you feel a little skin in the game, right? You're out in the field, you're talking to the families, and you're selling the invisible. This is what you guys do every day: is you sell the invisible, and you hope that that everything that you've said comes to light when they're on campus. And largely, I think it does. I think we had an interesting incident with one of Pam's families that at the time you're like, oh boy, I don't know. There's not a lot we can do, and if it wasn't, uh, but that actually ended up being a really good situation. There'll be more to come out of that, but the fact that a family raised the flag and that they had a relationship with their counselor, and I'll say this, Pam, it's kudos to you. I think this is the fact that you've been digging a well out there in Penticton and building relationships with those families more than just recruiting. Like you're getting to know them, you know their schools and so forth. So when a flag was raised and hey, there was a concern or at least a critical question, a fair question coming our way, because of their relationship with you, they could be really honest and candid with you, and that actually ends up being something really wonderful for the university. Like I said, there'll be more to come on those details as that begins to roll out. But it's preview weekend isn't just a showcase of our facilities and our programs. It's really a lot of credit to what each one of you do in the field, getting to know your students and your families as a whole, and for them to really begin to trust you. Hey, everything you said about the community and our programs and here is present. And so thank you guys for doing that. It's exciting to see that take place every well, not every month. I wouldn't want to do it every month, but frequently when we do it in our cycle. So I'll give you some stats. We had 101 students that were fall 19 RSVP, and those were confirmed RSVPs. I went back and looked. Did we make the appropriate contact? And probably about a week out or so, we started making contact with the students, confirming RSVPs or at least in some kind of engagement. So 101 of those had a positive contact. We had 83 show up. So we ended up right around an 82% show rate, which, given the weather, wasn't great. It's not the gold standard, so I'm not disappointed because 80% show rate's better than no show rate. But I do think that we probably this is a challenge for us, especially for you see it with the Lower Mainland. I'm going to put some more thought into this rather, and talk with a couple of the ACs locally. There does seem to be a default that I don't need to come, or it's not that important to come. We need to look at ways that we can structure, and I don't want to incentivize and dilute our brand, but at the same time, how do we motivate the lower or the Langley student um, in the Surrey markets and so forth to come on a rainy day or a cold day? What's their incentive to do that? Yeah, they can come any day during the week, but maybe we're diminishing the value of that too much and making it, oh, you can just come any day, versus, hey, this is the day that they need to come. This is when you get to experience who we are as a whole. And so that's probably something probably going to look a little bit more at how do we ensure that we get a better show rate from our local students. It certainly means a lot when Alberta and Vancouver Island and Penticton and Kansas and so these people, they make commitments. I mean, they're spending money, they're spending time. It's a big deal, and so their show rates do statistically do show better when they're traveling from afar. But when they don't show up, the local mainland, because that's the ones that the reason we want Surrey and White Rock and Metro Van to show up on preview day, because when we have students from outside the region come, they also kind of validate not just the community, the campus, but the reputation. They can say, oh yeah, I've heard about Trinity this way, or yeah, this is what I know about it, or I have friends that go to the school. It's one thing from an adult perspective to speak to a student and say all these things, and it's another thing for us to pair them up with a really sharp ambassador, because those are our president scholarship students, those are our best students, our most engaged students. It's a sales pitch. But if you have a prospective student who's in White Rock attending on the weekend and attending with a student from wherever, Washington, they're validating everything they've heard, and they're also checking out the university. So it's just social momentum. So we've got to look at ways that we can have a better show rate with our local students. So more to come on that. There's probably not ever a perfect solution on that. That's something that we're always going to be messing with the chemistry on, but it's just something that it's very glaring in this one. I was told beforehand, if it snows, they're not going to come. The local students won't come, and it didn't snow, but it certainly wasn't, balmy either. Anyway, so enough of that. The next thing, today is a snow day in BC, most of BC at least. Pam shaking her head no, but maybe it's not, because places where they have snow as a routine part of life, it's a regular day. Okay, got it. So for Langley, the Langley market, it's largely a snow day. And that means, and I sent that text message out today, that means our students are at home. So please, make contact with your students. They're at home doing nothing. If they're a high schooler, they're trying to sleep until noon. That's what they're trying to do today. Okay, so make the call to them, reach out to them, and it's a good time for us to get those call numbers in, make some contact. I wouldn't necessarily. This is my my own take on this. I wouldn't necessarily call your previous students. You just had contact with them. You just followed up with them. They're a little bit of a post preview. You want to let that kind of filter in a little bit. But I would set today is a good day to go look at who attended. Go look at you can pull the preview report, go to reports for preview. I think it's PW weekend, February 8 and 9. Pull that report, flag all your students who attended. And then what I would do is I would set a calendar reminder for Thursday or Friday to reach out to them. Reach out to those students and say, hey, it was post preview. This is where we're at. Hey, you've seen everything. You're admitted. Let's sit down and maybe I've already been to the Financial Coffee House. Channel them into the next step. And it's okay. This is where I'm going to talk to you a little bit about when you're talking to your students now. It's okay to start talking about deposit season. It's okay. I mean, Pam's been getting deposits. Several of you have been getting deposits. Megan's been getting deposits. It's okay to start asking for that. If you know the relationship, if they've been to the Financial Aid Coffee House, they've been to the campus now, they've been to the dorm, they bought the sweatshirt, right? You've got all the positive indicators that, hey, this is a good thing is happening here, right? It's okay to start talking about that. Are you guys ready to make a deposit? That for some of you, that's going to feel uncomfortable. For some of you, that's going to be like, you're going to be able to read the tea leaves and say, hey, this is where they're at. I'm ready to ask that question. If you're wanting to know, should I be asking for deposits at this point, you've got a good feeling about the family, please talk to Megan, myself, Josh, or Pam. We can take a look at the account with you. We can talk about some of the conversations you've had, but it's okay to ask for a deposit. Okay, I don't want you to think that, okay, we're going to leave May 1st out there, and hopefully they understand because they'll get a Pardot email that says, hey, it's time to deposit. Okay, you've cultivated a relationship with these students and these families. Okay, hopefully you have built trust with them, and they've got a full picture of who we are. Their financial aid award letters went out to them. They've got some snapshot of where they're at. Sure, there are some things that maybe they're going to have to apply for the Canadian families in June. I get it. But still, it's a good time to begin asking about the future, starting to define where this relationship's going. Okay? So don't be afraid. And if for those of you that's still kind of a new process too, please speak to speak to your teammates or myself on the team, and let's make the best evaluation if this is a good time to ask that question for the family. Okay. All right. Last thing I'm going to go into is that I want to talk to you guys about, well, it's two-part thing here. the Sly broadcast. Excuse me, my phone's. The Sly broadcast is functional for our teammates, for everybody here to use. Okay, Josh, Megan, Pam, Paul have all been implementing it at different levels, and I want to encourage you to use it, but I want to let you know it's not a miracle pill. It doesn't move students from inquiry to admit overnight. You still got to do the legwork. You've still got to get to know these students. It's certainly clever. There is besides a play button, there's probably nothing more powerful than to send them a voicemail, because they get the ability to not take your call, but also hear your call, right? And a lot of times, they're ghosting you. They go, oh, it's Pam again. I don't know what I'm going to tell her, and they hit the button past. Now you get to actually leave the voicemail, and they get to hear you at their own choosing when they're ready, right? It's a good process. I want to encourage some of you to begin trying it out. I want you to look at your database. Start with the top end of the funnel. We're not at the place where we're going to use Sly for the deeper parts of the funnel, because you are cultivating those relationships. I don't want this to get into a robocall kind of business where we're just, oh, here's my voicemail for all my admits, and here's how I ask all my admits for deposits. I'll send them this email. Don't do that. You've built a relationship. For the time being, let's use the Sly for the top end of our funnel. Okay, inquiries and apps started, blocks of 200 to do no more than 250. Okay, and Pam, Megan, Paul, Josh will update you there. You do need to log the calls, which now I'm going to come into the second part of this. So you can use Sly, okay? But the second part, I want to talk about calls. I say the word call, and I want to make sure that you guys understand what I'm saying. It's really a closed activity. That's engagement on your part and the student's part, right? You have taken action, a direct action. With Sly, you will get a report that somewhere in the neighborhood of 65% of your calls got a voicemail. That's actual active engagement on your part, left on the student's part. Okay, so I want you to log those calls, only the ones that got a voicemail placed, right? Because the student, it's now in their court to respond. That's a logged activity. Okay, so when I say call, I don't necessarily mean ringy-dingy, right? I don't necessarily mean it has to be voice-to-voice on a phone. It could actually be Jonathan sitting in a coffee shop with 5 students. And it's Jonathan's job to go home, or after those, meeting with those 5 students, to log those 5 closed activities, 5 calls, however you want to look at it. Those are 5 activities that you had engagement with students. So whether it's a call, a text, email, I'm a little bit more cautious about, because you can blanket those out. But if you have email engagement where the student responds, absolutely, that's certainly a closed activity. We need to be logging all those activities in general. But I don't want you guys to think that when I send a text out that says, yeah, call all your students. Yeah, I want you to call all your students, but that can be done in a variety of different ways. And so a lot of you are very creative in doing that. I've got 1 minute left, so please. Don't get locked into Matt means I must be making all these dials. Yeah, I do want you to make 30 of these attempts or whatever it is a day. Absolutely. But that could be done in a variety of different ways. And so don't think that it just fits down to your cell phone or whatever. Okay. So I had a good conversation with a teammate this week who said, hey, this is kind of hard to do. Well, yeah, it is hard to do. That's the job. But I also wanted to make sure I had redefined that definition. There's ways where you guys can achieve that. So, hey, you guys do good work. Thank you this week. Call your students and shovel your sidewalks. Stay warm, and I'll be in touch. This call will be recorded. I'll send it out in a voicemail as well. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.